Hey, welcome back to the August meeting of the Hampton Ship Model Society. We're entering the show and tell portion. So volunteers to go first. Anyone? Get the.
I volunteer, Sean.
Thanks, Gene.
Carrying for us. Better than following you.
I feel unsafe this week.
I'm going to try and. Here we go. Oh wow, that's looking good, Sean. Bit of a tangle here. Making everyone dizzy. All right. Yeah, that ought to do.
All right, so I've taken a small break from the Siren model. I'm still struggling through trying to get the coppering done on it the way I want it to look like. So I switched over to a model that Tim Woods had given me a few years back. It's a 1/200 scale model of the Arizona Trumpeter's kit. I've done the hull plating to the best of what I could find through the archives drawings that Gene has given me, and also photos that I found online of similar class ships. So I've completely hull plated it, and then I've used MK Design and some other aftermarket brass parts to detail out the hull. So I've now painted it. I'm doing measure 5D. My intent is to model her when she went on her last underway in September, prior to her collision with Oklahoma that ended up putting her in dry dock. And then, of course, December, she was lost. So I'm doing 5D. So my next step is to varnish it so I can start weathering the hull and then start putting the wood deck down.
Make another adjustment here. Close that so people don't get seasick while I'm making the adjustments.
You should,
I
should be
wanted to be able to show your hull details a little better.
How did you do the plating?
So can't remember the gentleman who's the curator up at the Naval Museum, but he mentioned to me on a visit up there a number of years ago.
Oh, cool.
Tom Pearl. Don Pearl, yes, thank you, Don Pearl. He mentioned using putty as a means of doing it. So on the blister tanks, there's it's just plastic that I've glued into strips along it, but the actual hull itself, all of the heavy plating was done using auto body putty and tester's putty.
You really got to see it in person. I mean, the screen doesn't show it. Well done.
Thank you, appreciate that. I'm going to use some Panaline black to try to bring it out just a little bit more. You don't need to see much it looks.
All right. Sorry about that. Sorry, everyone, about the screen going all over the place. I had the tripod set up in the wrong direction in order to be able to do tilt, so we're good now. Anyway, yeah, that's looking really good, Sean.
Next. Cheevers. Really good hull.
All right. Y'all like that hull plating? You're gonna love this hull plating. A couple of things. That's rough. In the logbook, there was a page called the tool, and I highlighted a surface gauge, and I brought it in
Put it in front of the camera. Is that it? I brought it in so you could see it. This is the poor man's surface gauge. And as you can tell, Miracle Whip. Right, so this came from Tom Saunders' place, and I guess Tom made it as after just something he must have heard at the meeting because he was always tinkering. And so we've got a lead-filled mayonnaise lid and a coupling and a brass rod that he threaded one end, and then just a couple of very simple pieces of machined aluminum, one that holds a pencil. And so you don't need to go get the real expensive fancy stuff. You could scribe your water line if you wanted to using a fairly inexpensive tool. Anyway, I thought about this because the discussion came up a couple of meetings ago about how to get that level line for the water line on a hull. And we said, well, you need to use a surface gauge, but you don't need to go out and buy the expensive Starrett one or something like that. You make yourself a tool. The other thing is I wanted to talk about, I filled an empty page in the logbook with a plating technique. And so I brought the Lighthouse Tender Beach in its current state, showing some plating. You can see it like that. And it's a technique I used on the Dorothy tugboat that I built a couple years ago. And it's simply paper strips glued on to the wood. Now, what makes it possible on this particular hull is plating arrangement was in and out straking. It was never a single overlap. It was just in or out. So all I really need to do is put the outer strakes on the hull. And once various places, rough spots are putted up and is painted, it'll be a reasonable representation of the plating on this particular hull. So that's what I had to show this month.
Is it something you do to seal up the paper and make it smoother and able to take paint better?
Well, my theory is that wood is wood and paper is wood. And so when I do my normal hull finishing process, the first thing I will coat this with is one or two coats of a sandable lacquer sealer.
Yep.
And then that'll prep the surface right for the primer that I'm going to use.
So those paper strips on there are permanent, part of the model.
They're part of the model.
You can quit telling people at the booth that they're gonna take it off.
The other one that's in there, yeah, the other one's done the same way. They're just, believe it or not, they're paper tick strips, and we use them in lofting to pick up measurements when we were lofting by hand, or a tilt-10 scale actually, and they're fairly high quality paper, and the technique to get them on there is really just the inverse of the spiling that we talk about a lot on how you spile a plank. And so in this case, it's done the reverse way. The seam locations are located on the hull, and then you bring the paper strip in, and you reverse mark where you need them, and then I just cut the curve that results through those points that I pick up with a ship's curve and an X-Acto knife. And then the plate, some adjustment, and then you get it in there and glue it in place, and there you go.
How thick is that paper that you're using?
I'd have to measure it. Paper comes in like pound each weight. It's thinner than an index card, but it's very similar to an index card in thickness. Any other questions?
That's 1/4 inch plating.
I guess if you wanted to be technical, I could go calculate the weight of the plate,
Please do so.
balance it against what I read on the drawing, and we go and see how far out of scale I am.
I'll wait till you put the rivets.
How about you, Stuart? Move the model, or I can move the camera, or both.
Is it focused well enough?
Yep.
Okay. That's my model of the Greek bireme, based to 480 BC. This is obviously just partially complete. It's an Amati kit. It's a very good kit. It's got nice materials in it. Absolute worst instructions I've ever encountered. When I opened the box, I started looking for the instruction book. It wasn't there. I got on the internet to try to find a copy of it and discovered, no, it is none. There is no instruction book. You are limited to what the plans tell you. The plans are very sketchy, to say the least. But they have a lot of writing on them, a lot of notes on it. The notes are in Italian, French, and broken English. And I think I referred more to the photographs than I have the plans. I've been building it in the taco stand, now known as the Ship Modelers booth, since March. That keel is temporary. That's just for me to have something to clamp it with. That will come off. The rest of it is all mahogany, walnut strips. The only thing I've really done at home, I take it home to do the heavy sanding. Certain people don't like dust.
Well, on that note, one of the curators said he's never had a complaint about dust, so sand away. Do what you want.
Oh, I'd complain about this stuff. I put sealer on here and sand the sealer off, and that's nasty stuff because it's heavy and dirty. The interior deck, which you see, is not finished, both at the stern bow and the stern. That will be extended. Actually, I put in the deck all the way and stained it and decided I didn't like it, so I'm doing it over. Any questions on it?
What scale is that?
I don't remember, but I think it's probably about 1 to 50. That's about a foot and a half long. The boat was probably 60, 70 feet. I don't know what the model plans are based on. I don't think there are any of these in existence anymore. Maybe they found some buried in the mud somewhere. But
That's all the movie.
actually, I've seen some paintings. They have this particular model with a big eye down here on the bow in a painting.
It's probably a lot of what it is.
That's probably what it is.
Paintings, stuff off of old pottery.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes nice model. You can always say it's
At least
more
you're happy
accurate.
with materials. People usually complain about the instructions and the materials.
Materials are okay. Actually, I have enough of them too.
Were boats like this rigged for sale also?
Yes. Yes, they are rigged for sale. They have a mast somewhere in here. One mast, one boom, one sail. And the sail is used only to essentially transport the ship from where its home port is to where the battle is going to be. Then the sail is furled and they use only the oars. This has 44 oars on it. I'm really looking forward to building those.
Each one of them.
Carving all the figures to go with
Yeah, right.
it.
Yeah, I don't, there must be some shortcut there.
Yeah.
Fine.
Are you going to try to build a ram for it too?
Yeah, well, let's put a ram. There'll be a ram down here at the center. I haven't even thought much about how to do that. Probably gonna be a wood painted bronze. Unless I can get somebody to volunteer to make me a bronze one.
Boat like this would have what kind of crew on it? Said there's 44 oars, would there be 2 or 3 on an oar maybe?
No, I think there was only one on an oar. So 44 slaves down there rowing it. And I'm not sure how many they had. I don't think anybody's sure how many others they had. They probably had a few archers up here in the bow. And then this deck along here would have had a number of warriors with spears, lances, Greek fire, who knows what. That I really don't know. But the main weapon was the ram. Get out there and ram your enemy. This was apparently typical of the ships that were used at the Battle of Salamis, 480 BC, when the Greeks turned back the Persians.
Very good, Stuart.
So I've been telling everybody at the booth that I'll finish it by Christmas. So Christmas, maybe I'll have it done.
Yeah.
You said don't tell.
No, Christmas.
Well, actually, I can switch. Yep. You just take a seat. Or stand in front. I was standing.
I haven't been here in a while, and I was just wondering who was gonna be here when I got back. Glad you all are here. I wanted to add to one of the 2 previous gents in front of me, John and the big guy. There's a third way to do the hull strakes. I model in 1/350th exclusively. So what works in 1/350th probably works a little bit up and a little bit down. But the way I do it is I paint the hull, smooth it, make it perfect. That's perfect, no bubbles or anything. And then I take the plating diagram from the blueprints and lay it out with tape, usually plastic tape or something that is really curvable. And once it's in place and it matches the plating diagram, then I shoot in the areas that will be out from the hull. I use high build formula body primer for cars. I usually use about 2 or 3 coats of the body filler, and that brings the plate out about 3 thousandths to 8 thousandths, depending on how. Let everything dry. I use a hair dryer to get it to set up quickly. Then I can smoothly sand it down, and you end up with the plating being as thick as the tape that you now peel off. And you also have, usually when I pull it off, there's almost like a little bulge along the edge of the tape, which looks like welding, a welding bead. I've been real happy with the way it's worked. I've used it a number of times. And it's one additional tool. I'm not sure it would work well in a huge scale or in a real tiny scale, but in the sweet spot of what I model, 1/350th plus or minus, it works great. Most of my background work for my years at the Navy has been in anti-submarine warfare. And as such, I have read about the Battle of the Atlantic in about 10 books, at least this big. I was going to recommend anybody that's really interested in what really happened, not down to the 4th depth charge that went over the side of this destroyer escort for this particular convoy, but sort of the 20,000-foot view of what happened in the Atlantic from 1939 to 1945. This book, oddly named The Battle of the Atlantic, written very recently, actually, I think it's 2 years old, by a Jonathan Dimbleby. And he has a way of, John, no, Jonathan, Jonathan Dimbleby, Dimbleby. And
That's all right, I'll get it all.
is what makes this story unique and interesting for me, who's done a lot of reading on this particular part of ASW, is that he's able to tie a lot of things together, including the politics of the Army versus the Navy. One of the key elements in the Battle of the Atlantic was the B-24. And the whole story of getting the B-24s forward into the area where the U-boats were is a very interesting story. He tells it better than anyone else does. So I highly recommend this book. The subtitle is How the Allies Won the War. Anybody that's built a ship knows that they never look the same for their entire career. So any model kit you buy is always going to be wrong, whatever it is you're building. I built a number of World War II models, and the ships change every few months. They go in for overhaul, they come out, they look different. They got different gear on it. That has required me to become conversant with 3D modeling. And there are a number of places where you can buy stuff for 3D modeling to upgrade your Arizona to December 6th, for example, or 1934, however. So this is the way the hobby's going for people like me who model steel Navy type thing. And I have a book here on what 3D modeling is, 3D printing is all about. And I've kind of gone the whole way of buying a 3D printer. And anybody that has experience with it, let's sit down and talk. I have yet to do it, but I'm getting real close here. It's the only way to get some things done, either in ship modeling, or I'm also a model railroader building station buildings that are one of a kind. This is how you would do it if you're obsessed with getting the right looking building or locomotive or whatever. Any questions are welcome.
You gonna see the book? I was just wanted to hold it up in front of the camera here.
Do you know what software you're moving
Okay.
towards getting?
I guess it's in the book.
Excuse the interruption. I don't know the 3D software yet.
Yeah.
It'll be an AutoCAD type of thing.
Sure.
I just want to find something that isn't $500. It's gonna cost me $500. I didn't spend 500.
I can't remember the name of it, but our associate member, Bill Brown, I think, was mentioning a free 3D modeling software.
It's called I think it's called Fusion Model Works, something like that.
Fusion 360.
Yeah.
Fusion 360. There you go.
But I can't find out how I can get it for free, because I'm not in college anymore.
Oh, I thought it was just a download off their website. But,
It is.
Yeah, you can. If you want, give Bill, you got his contact information. Just send him an email. He'll get you the information.
Bill Brown.
Yep.
Bill Brown, Ship Model
Right.
Society, New Jersey.
Roger that. Thank you.
He's on the roster.
Okay.
Okay. Any other show and tell? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. On that phone.
Asleep at the switch. No, there's a shutter over the thing, so. Well, it finally occurred to me to put the shutter over it so people didn't see it bouncing around. Yeah. I just wanted to make you look bad, Sean, and not everyone else.
Not hard.
easy target.
Okay, well, it's obvious I'm getting carried away building this Willie as a decorative model. The base is just temporary. Before I finish the model, I just want to figure out how I was going to mount it. Just took some scraps out of the shop, but I'll be getting back to that. So some of the things that are different here, the cabin tops here, the options are either flat stock, painted, or you can plank the tops. I went with the planking. It's a little more difficult, but it has a better look to it. And on the main hatch here, it's supposed to be just 64th flat sheet painted over. But I made two 1/32 pieces, one as a flat piece, and then I cut out the frames around the top to make it white, kind of like an inlaid kind of thing, make it look a little bit more decorative there. I did the same thing on the main entrance for the doors for the main cabin there. And then I went ahead and stained everything. It's supposed to have like a flat paint on it or something, and I just stained exactly. There's a little bit more pop to it. And the wheel's supposed to be black, and I made it aluminum with some wood handles on it. The water barrel, I put a little bung on the bottom with a spigot, because you gotta have some way of getting the water out. I was gonna go ahead and put a bung on the top for filling it, but I said enough with that. And I painted the barrel rings there, painted them brass to just give it a little bit more look to it. So
Wish I could adjust the lighting on the screen. It looks kind of washed out.
yeah, it's kind of washed out on the screen.
It actually looks better on the computer screen. I think the overhead projector is worse. So,
And I've got
of course, if you show up to our meetings instead of just joining online, you can see it in person. That comment is not intended for the people who live up in Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey. It's for the people in our club that live locally that don't make it. I know some people can't make it. John, I'm not talking about you.
Might want to say that.
What's that? No, it's actually a serious plea. No, I'm being totally serious. The people in the Philadelphia Model Club, sorry, wrong one. Chip Model Society New Jersey Club have lamented how many of their members are now choosing to join their meetings online instead of showing up in person, even though they live very close. One guy in particular was within 10 minutes drive or something like that, but didn't join online. So some people can't come because of their health or COVID concerns. I'm not talking about them, but we like having people here in person. None of the people online fit that category, but maybe they'll watch the video later. I'm just trying to get more people to show up. We actually have a good attendance today, but there's been some sparse meetings in the past where we had several people online, and it's like, well, why aren't they here? Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right.
Please continue.
So on the cap rail, I went and put that in, and instead of painting all the little brass stanchions there, I left them as brass and stained the rail too. That makes it look a little bit nicer. So let's talk about soldering. There's a lot of soldering that needs to be done on this model. There's still more to come, and I haven't soldered anything since the 70s. I used to be pretty good at it, and I have an old pen type soldering iron, an old Weller gun, but I forget. I need to get something new here. Any excuse to buy a tool. So I went looking around online, and the thing these days seems to be a soldering station where you can adjust the temperature and everything. So I found one that was at a price I was willing to pay. I got that thing, and so the first thing I was trying to solder the A-frame here. I'm supposed to make that out of two angled pieces of brass, and solder them together, and it puts. I could not get that either brass to heat up, and the solder to flow, and I kept cranking the temperature up, and the tip kept oxidized, and I couldn't clean. Worked on it and tried all different things. I said, this ain't work. I'm just gonna glue it together. I put it together with some CA glue, put the first couple of pieces together. Well, they fell apart. That didn't work either. I said, screw it. I'm gonna make it out of wood. So wood I know how to work with. So I made the A-frame out of wood. It's a little bit bigger than what would have come out of with the brass, but I think it looks a lot sturdier and a little bit more industrial, heavy duty thing. So that worked out fine. So the next thing I had to do was the dredge. That's all supposed to be soldered. Okay, well, I need to find a plan C. First two didn't work, so I remembered some stuff from years back, like liquid solder or liquid metal or something. And I said, let me go see what I can come up with. So I went to Lowe's, found this stuff. It's JB Weld, super weld stuff. And it's one of those items that you put a little bit of the adhesive on there and then you hit it with the light, UV light, and 5 seconds, and you got a really solid joint on brass. And it's even advertised as being used for like jewelry making for welding metal. So I said, no, that's kind of like jewelry. So I put it together using that and worked out fine.
What's the name of that again?
Could you hold it up in front of the camera for a second? There you go.
Super Weld, JB Weld. And I didn't puncture the top and use a kind of unscrew it and squirt some on a piece of wax paper, because otherwise it kind of gets lost up in here and seals the cap to where you can't get it off anymore.
Does that include the UV light in it?
Yeah, it's on the back side of the light.
Pretty good. Can you get that?
That was Lowe's. Lowe's.
Lowe's.
Lowe's big box store. So anyway, I put that together and I figured, well, I've got to have some netting on the bottom, otherwise the oyster's going to fall out. And so I figured, what do I use for netting? And they had some suggestions, like this floral netting that goes around flowers sometimes when you buy it, and check with some florists. And nobody knew what I was talking about. But I had some of this left. It's actually an onion sack from when you buy onions, kind of small. And I had some of that left over from when I did something on another model. So went ahead and used that and glued that on, painted brown, and make it look like rope there. But of course, a while later, a month later or so, I was rummaging around my workshop and I found some metal mesh that would have worked out a whole lot better scale wise, but it's okay. So then when it came down to doing the push boat davits there, in the meantime, I went online, figured out what am I doing wrong with this soldering station? And it turned out I had the heat up too high. That's what was oxidizing all the tips. And I was using a solder that came with the iron there, and it was better to use a rosin flux solder, which I had some of that anyway. So I started using that, and by the time I went to solder the davits, the lift here, I redeemed myself and I was able to solder all those joints on there, with the exception of these two stays in the back, because I was able to hold them where I wanted to and tape them down there, and then I just hit it with this stuff I wouldn't have to take it on, take it off. So that worked out okay. And I put these pads on here that are supposed to be deck protectors so the dredge doesn't eat up the deck. And I wanted to have it weathered wood, because I figured they're disposable after they chew them up for a while. Toss it and put another one down there. And so I used the driftwood wash. I put on a couple of coats of extra. I kind of wanted the grain to show through and have it look more kind of weathered. But I think I've got one coat on too many, and it just looks like a gray slab, but that's what I got. So I think that's all that stuff. And then, of course, there's the push boat. A pain in the butt. I probably spent a month on this thing. And it still didn't come up to where the dimensions are the same as what was on the plans. I don't know. I measured everything. I cut everything out of the plans. But hey, it's what I got. And sticking with it. I think that's
Could you
about.
move that towards the bow so we can see it on there, please?
Move away.
How about the bow? There we go.
For the record, name and scale again?
Excuse me?
Name and scale?
Oh, it's the Willie E. Bennett
And it-
kit. And it's 3/8 scale, 1/36.
Oh, shipboard.
Yes. Okay, I think that's all I got to say about that for today. Model shipways, yes.
I'll go next. My wife was not kind enough to bring my show and tell items to me since I left it at home. Go ahead. Anyone in the room play cribbage? Used to? All right. How many people know of cribbage? Okay, more. Okay, that's good. I made a cribbage board for my dad years ago from a piece of cherry that got knocked down by Hurricane Isabel. John has some of it too. I've used it in a couple of my models. The first board that I cut for my dad has a routing error on the backside, so I put that aside and started over, so he had something more pristine. And the old one sat there for years and years and years waiting for me to do something with it. I finally did. Why'd the
What we did, projector.
find out or?
Keep the wallpaper out. Turn it back up.
I'm trying to do the old turn it off and turn it back on thing, and it doesn't even want to turn off.
Because they can still see it online.
Yeah.
So what did we lose? They can see us.
Projector.
Oh, projector.
Yeah.
So they can see
Okay.
us.
Yeah, they, Zoom is a little.
I
Yeah.
well, I just gonna. All right, so my what I did was a wood inlay of the fishing schooner Aspinet from Chappelle's book on fishing schooners. So the block is, like I already said, is cherry. This is the routing mistake I told you about before. Hit the edge and took a chunk out. Where the dovetail slide drawer, where the pocket for the cards and the counting pegs. Counting pegs, I'm going to try and turn some belaying pins out of aluminum and brass. I haven't done that yet, so now I just have some cheap toothpicks. The white-ish inlay is holly, and the waterline and frames are some species of black wood. I doubt it's ebony. I don't know what it is. Given to me by somebody whose husband was a woodworker, had passed away, and passed on some stuff to me. Too late for me to second guess my choice for the mass. I should have just used a darker brown wood. This has a purplish hue. Doesn't really fit the rest too well. But anyway, I'm almost completely pleased with it. I screwed up and sanded a little too deep. So where I didn't drive the holly in as deep, and it's sanded down closer to the bottom, and you can see that there's it's picking up some of the darker color from the glue. So it's, instead of being all white, it's turning gray, and not real pleased with that. I could try and dig that out and redo it. I'm not sure if the cure might be worse than the disease. I also had some custom playing cards made up. The common backs are the body plan for Aspinet. And then for my dad's cribbage board, I got custom cards made for him as well. It's a painting made from a photograph. My aunt did the painting. It's of my mom and my dad and their dog looking at the sunset on the beach where they live. But I've looked at several companies. There are a lot of places you can get custom backs. This is the first one I found where you can customize the fronts. So once I found that, I had to do that too, because like Gene said, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So instead of clubs that have 3 lobes, I've got dead eyes that have 3 holes in them. And instead of diamonds, I've got rigging blocks. Instead of hearts, I have hearts. And instead of spades, I have eye splices. Someone thought they're nooses, but oh well. On the aces, I have just the one large image.
Spades.
You asked. Each of the face cards has a different full plan from a different fishing schooner from Chappelle's book. And you don't use jokers in cribbage, but it's a poker deck. So since it's a fishing schooner, Grand Banks, where they fish for cod, then I've got a pair of codfish for the jokers. So I
Greg, what's the website?
You're on deck, and it's proper English, so it's YOURE.
Or what?
youareondeck.com. And it's interesting. It's a startup from a 15-year-old kid. His tech advisor is his high school teacher. Mom and dad help him run it. I don't know how long it's been up, so maybe the 15-year-old kid's now 22. I have no idea, but kind of a cool story. It probably started out as some sort of high school tech project. But the other thing was, I had a little bit of difficulty pushing the boundaries of, what you could do with their, like on the backs. Normally, the picture that you would upload is just in this small area here, and I wanted to fill in the whole space, and I was having a hard time making that work. I sent them emails with questions, and within 15 minutes, I had a response. I had a second question, and then 15 minutes later, I had another response. I mean, it was 15 out of 10 on customer service. That's fantastic. So I took this up to Philadelphia. I think cribbage is more of a Midwest Northeast game. And so I figured going up there, I might find more people, and no one knew what it was. It hardly got any comments at all, which was a little disappointing. I was also hoping to, play it firsthand with it. So I've yet to play. So if anyone wants the privilege, the very esteemed privilege of playing the first hand on this game, we can do it during the break, or if you're going to lunch, we can play a game.
How did you carve the inlays?
So I should have, what I should have done was made templates for each line so that I had something solid to work up against. But I took a shortcut. I just printed out and temporary glued on the plan, and I scored it with a knife. And then I have this chisel. Focus is bad. This is from a set of micro chisels, and one of them I snapped. The shafts are much too long. If you put any sideways pressure on it, they snap. I did that. Should have been wearing goggles because it flew up and hit me right on my eyebrow, not my eye, thank goodness. That happened while I was sitting in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan airport working on my dad's version of the cribbage board. So all I did is just took the wood back a little bit further. It's a round shaft. I just used diamond hone blade to flatten it on all four sides and then do a chisel point. So in the groove from the X-Acto knife, I ran this in sideways, not along the actual chisel point, just to get, because it's more of a V groove that way. And then I just gradually move it more and more vertical until I had it straight up and down, and then I just worked it, the channel down through it repeatedly. And then the larger areas were with an X-Acto knife, and then other chisels and gouges just to work it out. So, it came out, the lines pretty pleasingly solid. The only real problem is the gray stuff in the holly, which, oh well.
What do they charge for the deck?
So yeah, it's pricier than the ones where you can only do you can go to like Rite Aid or one of those other drugstores sells them because they do photo printing, and you can get a cheaper deck, just the custom backs. Qualities is not as good as a deck of bicycle cards, but it's better than the Rite Aid version. It was $27 for one deck, but I got two decks, so I have spares in case I lose one or it gets turned at the corner or whatever. You could get two decks for $30, so it's only $3 for the second deck. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. So anyway, that's it for me.
nice.
Anyone else in the room? All right. Don't think there's anyone else in the room. So is there anyone online that wants to do show and tell?
I've got something, if you let me share my screen.
Oh, I think I already set it up. I might have to remove the spotlight. Let me do that.
All right.
There we go. You should be okay now.
All right.
Yep.
Let's see what we want to do here. Okay, hold on. Let me unshare again. Hold on. I got to put up. Uh, okay. You see that?
Nope.
Not sharing.
Negative.
Let me do this a different way. Uh, uh, okay.
It's not sharing the screen.
When you were scrolling through there, you had only you could,
I thought I had all participants.
not only you could share it.
There's all participants.
Who can start sharing? Oh, when someone else.
Oh, and someone else is sharing. Yeah, that, but no one else is sharing, so that should be okay. There we go.
You see
Got
that?
it. That's coming
Okay.
up. Coming up. It says you've started sharing, but we don't see anything just yet.
Like he had video on his setup.
Well, he's just sharing his computer, so the video shouldn't matter.
Hold on. Let me do this a different way. Hang on.
He's done this several times before, so it's not like he can't do it.
Okay, hang on.
We're
getting
hanging.
there. I'm putting it on the other monitor. I'm putting it on the other monitor. Okay. All right.
Be nice, fellas.
$20 bill.
No, we're talking about it.
Okay, you see that now?
Yeah, yeah.
I fall asleep, y'all wake me.
So,
There we go.
all right, so this is the model of the Constitution 1350. This is the status that it was at about a week ago. What's interesting about this model is that you see,
I thought I heard you say Constitution. This is Titanic, isn't it?
I'm sorry, Titanic. I'm sorry. And you could see where my cursor is going here, the orange cursor.
Yep.
What's interesting is that all of this, when I put the next deck on, all of this is going to be covered. So, you know, this is the same thing here. This is this in the over here. This is the first class entry foyer. When I put the next deck on, you're not going to see it, but it is what it is. Here's a close up. Okay. So you could see I got the photo etch frames on, window frames. Okay. What's interesting about this model is that, you know, I put the frames on with crystal clear. And crystal clear is a cement, and you could also use it to simulate glass. Like anyone could tell you, most plastic kits, you know, there's a certain minimum that you could cast. So you will see that these walls, these bulwarks are much way over scale. So the question becomes, do you use acetate or do you use crystal clear? If you use acetate or mica, what'll happen is you'll be able to see through it better. And frankly, if you don't really want to see inside the model, it doesn't matter, because the crystal clear will do an excellent job. Crystal clear is used to simulate glass. It's also an adhesive, so that's what I put the frames in with. The thing about crystal clear is it's very viscous, so when you lay it in, it goes in white, dries clear. But the problem is that you get a very good, very pronounced meniscus with it. So even though it simulates glass, you really can't see through it, which is not a problem in a 1-350 model, I don't think. But if you go on some of the websites and you see some of these models that are lit and they actually show the curtains on the windows and the furniture inside the room, you know, you're not going to use crystal clear for that. Okay, these are the well decks. These are the electric winches. The electric winches did not have the drums on them. I had to put the drums on them. Okay. This is you could see here, this is the crystal clear when you just apply it. Notice it's white and then it dries clear. Okay, so these are the walls, the bulwarks for the bridge. Okay. Okay. All right. This is the second class entryway. And you notice that there's a square hole here. That square hole is to take the base of the main mast. I'm using the aftermarket masts, and the aftermarket masts are much smaller diameter than the ones in the kit, obviously. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to put a small block of wood in here with a hole drilled in it to take the heel of the mast. That's for another thing. Okay, now I'm currently working on the cranes. And what's interesting about the cranes is I've got the photo etch sprue for the cranes, the crane boom, and etc. And if you look at the instructions, if you look at the pulleys and the rigging, the brass rigging, or what's used to simulate the rigging in brass, it's all wrong. And what I mean by that is, let me see if I can get this up real quick. Well, all right, I'll do this first so I don't screw it up. Okay, so what I found is this is what the model railroad folks use and airplane folks use. This is stretchable line called Easy Line. Very, very thin. What they use this for is that if you want to put tension in the line, you glue one end, you pull it taut, and then you glue the other end, and it tensions. Okay, so I'm going to use this to rig the cranes. These are the cranes, and I've done some upgrading on them already. First thing is that the kit parts have holes here and here, because basically what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to just put the plastic parts on there and they capture in the holes. So I had to put plastic styrene in there. I also put the operating platform on, which does not appear in the kit part. You can see here's one of the holes that I had to put the styrene in. And then you could see the two operating levers. That's some spare brass photo etch that I had. Okay, this is what I'm using to bend the photo etch. And that's the end of that. Okay, so now I'm going to get out of here. And I'm going to share another screen, just a second. Okay. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a site called Rivet Counter. And here is what the crane's supposed to look like. So you have the main hook line goes up to the top, comes down around the spool, around the pulley on the end, and comes underneath and connects to the crane hook. And then the part that lifts and lowers the boom, you have a horizontal pulley here, and it goes up and it connects on these nubs on here. So that's what I have to put. I also had to put crane ladder on as well. Okay. You see here, this is an actual photograph. This is an actual photograph of the crane on the Olympic. So you get a better picture. There you go. This is a better picture. I don't know that I can make it bigger. I can't make it bigger, but you see how it is. You notice there's the horizontal pulley. You have two lines controlling the lifting and lowering of the boom. So the bottom line is as good as that photo etch was, the photo etch, that simulates the lines is just all wrong. So I need to scratch build all of that. Anyway, so that's the story. That's where I'm at right now. And you don't need to see that. Okay, so that's where I'm at right now. And any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I was talking to Mort earlier today. I have photo etch ladders. I just managed to get one all bent to shape, and I'm ready to put it on. And it flew off the tweezers, and I can't find it anywhere. I'm sure that someday I'll be walking in my shop and my feet will find it. But anyway.
Nobody here can relate.
Anyway, thank you.
You guys want to hear a quick funny story? So I taught my daughter all about the carpet monster, but we were in a store at Mystic, and I think, it was a little bit more sort of left of center in the store. And my daughter was saying, "Oh, yeah, there's the carpet monster. But the way she was saying it sounded like it could have been something else, and it was pretty entertaining. So anyway, it's just funny how she was very familiar with the carpet monster.
All right. Any other online show and tell? Not going to see any progress on Victory, Mort?
Yeah, there is some, wait. Yeah, I put the, let's see,
It's after a battle.
the crests on the bow, the boomkins, and I'm starting on the shrouds. And all the backstays and forestays are on, but right, you can't see them right now. It's a massive blue tape labels. But no, she's coming along.
It's going to be quite a model when you're done.
Very beautiful.
Pardon me?
It's going to be quite a model when you're done.
Yeah, it's for one of my son's offices. He wants to keep it in his office, and he wants a rig. I feel like I'm creating a Frankenstein. She's a beast. She's huge, absolutely huge. Pardon me?
Where are you at? Where you live?
Oh, in New York, South Nyack, New York. It's about 30 miles north of the city. And I'm a member of the Jersey Club.
Wait, is that a Boston hat? You live in New York?
No, Brooklyn Dodgers. Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah. I have a feeling that came up in a prior meeting.
Being a Boston guy, I had to call it out.
Everyone thinks it's a Boston hat, but no, it's a Dodger hat. Brooklyn Dodgers. From back in the day.
That sounds like a lie.
I think we're all out of possible people to present. So we'll take a short break, and then we'll have a presentation on ModelCon.
I'll hold the door.